Hey, future weapon enthusiasts, welcome to our Tomorrow's Weapons podcast. I'm Nick Young, the CEO of Desert Tech, and I'm here with BC Precision Ballistics, and I have Brian Cook and Clark Curnutt with us today. If you guys want to introduce yourselves, so let's start off with you, Brian.
Howdy, I'm Brian Cook from BC Precision Ballistics, guy that designed the cartridge and brought it to where it's at today.
The 6 Max cartridge. We probably should clarify. I forgot to mention. So these guys are relevant in the innovation circle because they have their 6 Max cartridge, and it's got some pretty exciting performance capabilities, and so we wanted to have them come in. So sorry, I'll turn it back to you. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, that's about it. I'll turn it over to Clark.
Yeah, my name's Clark Curnutt. I guess my main role in this is I do a lot of the machine work and testing and barrels and that nature of things. So, and then we have a third partner, Michael Bushell, and Michael handles the majority of the administrative and the office side of things. So that's who we are, the three of us. So
okay, very good. So you developed the 6 Max, and maybe you can get into a little bit of the history behind, why did you guys make the 6 Max?
Well, it all started with the lackluster performance of an M16, where it was designed in 58 and in service in 64, and it was designed to shoot about 100 yards in the jungle. And when we got to the Sandlot, it showed that it wasn't enough. We needed more performance out of an M16. So hence the evolution of the EPA round, and the Mark 262 round was pretty much the end of the evolution for the M16 mechanically, all it would fit in it. So when a 350 Legend parent case came out, I took a good hard look at it. It ran on a 378 bolt head, and it potentially held a lot more engine room than a 5.56, and that's what interested me. So I started down that road out of curiosity with this, how much more powder will this hold when we neck it down to 6 millimeter, and that was the beginning about 5 years ago, and it held 35 grains of water cap versus 29 to 30, depending on which brass you use in a 5.56. And we knew we had the engine room for performance, and then we started experimenting with that performance, and we got to a point where we really knew we had something. Then we went to the lab. We went out to EMRTC, which is a Energetics Material Test Research Center in Socorro, New Mexico. It's basically a SAMI lab run by Dave Emery, who's 26 years at Hornady, designed a ton of cartridges for Hornady. So we went to Dave and put it through the SAMI certification protocol. We weren't there to SAMI certify it. We were just doing our testing per their protocol to see if it really had the performance that we thought it had in a lab environment with a veteran like Dave. And after a week of testing, we asked Dave and said, "Hey, do we have something here, or should we quit?" And his eyes lit up, and his comment to me was, "Do you have it trademarked?" So I knew at that point, coming from a veteran, that we had something real. We had a niche cartridge, and that's the whole premise behind this cartridge, is to increase the performance without sacrificing the integrity of the gun itself, the bolt carrier group, the TSO of the weapon. As simple as you can, change the barrel and change a mag, and seriously, increase the terminal ballistics and the lethality of it at a greater distance. So that was the end game.
Very good. So, Clark, you want to add anything to that?
Just that the goal here is to take the M4 platform, M16 AR-15 platform into the next millennium, right. And do it in a very simple fashion, like Brian stated. Change the barrel, change the mag, and you've just increased the performance of the weapon system exponentially. In several regards, and we can get into that later when we get into the specifics of the cartridge. But not only are you increasing velocity weight for weight, but you're also increasing payload range, right, that you can fit at mag length, and that's where it really starts to shine. And you're doing all of this not at the cost of structurally compromising the rifle to gain the performance. The rifle is still as it was originally designed. It maintains all the structural integrity of the design because you're not structurally compromising it to do that. And we're running at the proper pressure levels for the platform as well. We're not doing this through increased pressure.
Yeah, it was an interesting evolution. What I left out, the EPR round, which was a 5.56 enhanced performance round. It was a 62 grain steel dart with a copper jacket. That was the quick fix, if you want to call it that, for the Afghanistan, the Sandlot, all Operation Freedom, Operation Storm, Desert Storm, the whole 20 years of it. That was the answer. Was basically taking the cartridge and upping the pressure from the old Sammy NATO of 57.5. They took it up to 63.5, and the gun wasn't happy. In the initial testing, it was breaking extractors, it was breaking bolt lugs, it was shaking the gun apart, the pins to pin the upper to the lower. It had massive problems shooting at high pressure. And everyone, the Marines initially rejected it. They said, this ain't happening. We're battle guys. We can't have a gun that breaks in 1,000 rounds. The Army, they said, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And they were pushing it, and the reason I'm mentioning that is because the evolution, the Veltor system, which toned down the EPR round and allowed the gun to live longer in combat, the Marines were forced to accept that EPR round. So they had to redesign a system that would keep the gun alive, having a round given to them, dictated to them. So that's an evolution in the gun. Now you can take and increase pressure a little bit in an AR cartridge, and it can handle it well because now the other end of the gun, the buffer system, is designed to do it. So it's been a big evolution to increased performance for sure.
Right. So what kind of audience or customer base do you think would benefit from the 6 Max cartridge? What kind of use cases do you see for this cartridge?
Well, initially I had tunnel vision to the general listed in the infantry. Now we've opened it up. It's got an amazing broad range from competition shooting, all the AR centric competitions. Coyote hunters love it because it's lighter grain projectiles. You can run them up there to 3,600 feet per second. The long range guys like it because you can shoot the heavy bullet, the 103, the 105, the 107 with the super high BCs of like 270 G7. So the spectrum has been opened up. The hog guys love it here in Texas. They've been killing hogs with it now for like 3-4 years. We have a bunch of guides, professional guides that have adopted it for shooting hogs and night coyote hunting and all that sort of stuff because they see the lethality of it. When you shoot a 90 grain bullet at 2,800 feet a second, it's the terminal ballistics of that, or it's a bang and a flop.
Right. Understood.
Yeah.
So am I correct in assuming, you mentioned you want it for infantry initially. Am I correct in assuming that this was kind of like your ideal replacement for the 5.56, the hypothetical NGSW program replacement cartridge?
100%, because you can put a longer barrel on the gun and do a DMR roll. You can put a shorter barrel on this gun. We've tested all the way down to 7.5 inch barrel with 105 grain payload, right. Full auto. Right. And we don't impart any stressors into the bolt carrier group, so you can run what we're doing is same as an M4 all day long. Right. And so it covers the whole spectrum of what an AR can do. This cartridge can cover the entire spectrum.
So have you had any luck with penetrating the U.S. military and getting interest in some testing on the 6 Max?
Yes. We have been tested in CAG once. I guess twice you could say. And I guess I could say testing is ongoing. Right. And both the Army and the Navy are looking at it, and it takes time. It's like watching grass grow. But they're shooting it, they're liking it, they're winning competitions with it. They've validated what we've done. They've won gas centric competitions with it, and and are very, very happy with it. So
great. No, that's good. It seems like it's always difficult to make that initial interest happen, and sometimes they kind of commit to something that might not be the ideal, and because they made that previous commitment, then they kind of close the door. So I'm hoping that that we can get that door back open with the 6 Max, because I think it's a much better candidate than the 6.8 Fury round that they adopted with the NGSW myself. So maybe we can get into the performance aspect of the cartridge. And as you get into the performance, I think it might be nice to maybe start off with the ideal loads that you guys are seeing, kind of your favorite loads, and then tell us the performance of those loads. Because I know as I watch a lot of the podcasts and stuff, when they talk about performance, then they'll talk about the performance, but not necessarily tell you what load they're doing. And so if we start with the loads first and then kind of extrapolate performance off those loads, I think that'd be awesome.
Well, so, Brian and I have a ton of conversations about this, but I think we're kind of both of the same mind that if I could only choose one load in a cartridge, it would be a 90 grain projectile. I think is where it really optimizes all the attributes of the cartridge. Yes, we can go with heavier projectiles, get heavier BC, and increase energy on targets downrange, but an across the spectrum payload that I think performs and checks all the boxes would be a 90 grain. So I think that would be the if I had to choose one, that'd be the one I'd choose. And I would probably, all things being equal, go with that in an 18-inch barrel as well.
Mm-hmm.
Comparatively, we've done an extensive amount of testing. So just kind of putting some numbers to it, with a 90 grain load out of a 10.5-inch barrel, we're doing 24.31. Out of a 24-inch barrel, we're doing 28.96. So that kind of gives you the velocity spectrum for a 90 grain projectile out of the 6mm Max cartridge. Putting some numbers to that, like from a comparison standpoint, I think if we could agree that probably the 77 SMK or Mark 262 round kind of being the top of the performance spectrum in the 5.56 223 cartridge out of a 16-inch barrel. These are all based on 16-inch barrel, and we compare that to the 90 grain. We're seeing and I'm going to use 600 yard range as our comparative here, but we're 29% increase in kinetic energy on target at 600 yards.
Okay.
And it's the same weapon system. It's just changing a barrel.
Right.
To me, that's significant.
What's the velocity of the 90 grain bullet out of that 18-inch barrel? I don't know if you said it.
At 20 out of the 16-inch barrel, it's 27 to 78 for the 90 grain.
78. Okay. Out of 16-inch, and then any values for the 18-inch that you're recommending?
Velocity-wise, out of the 18-inch, what were we? 28?
2800?
Yes.
Yeah. Very good.
On the 18-inch.
So 29% more energy. What about wind drift and ballistic drop?
So on drop, I'm comparing this again to the 77 SMK out of both out of a 16-inch barrel, compared to the 90 grain out of the 6mm Max. We're 6/10, atmospherics, being the same for both of these, of course. We're 6/10 less drop, so 13% flatter.
Okay.
And 3/10 less wind drift in a 10-mile-an-hour full value wind, so 16% improvement in wind or less wind drift.
What we've seen, it's 600 yards IPSC. You're pretty close to left edge. You're going to hit. If not left edge, you're gonna impact. So the whole concept behind the infantry making it more lethal is, you're not taught wind holds as an infantryman in the Army. You hold the top, hold the bottom, hold the edge. That's about as wild as you get with holds. Mm-hmm. And with this cartridge, we've basically doubled the effective range from a 300-yard guy to a 600-yard guy with no training.
Right, with just having less drop, less wind hold.
Correct.
Okay.
And greater energy on target. So, and now they shoot with the was it the SIG Tango T5 or T6? I can't remember the T, but that's the scope that the Army uses, and with the Hellfire reticle in it, out to 600 yards, it's basically what's called a match, which is a military term. We're half an MOA within that round. Our 2 rounds hit within a half MOA vertically. We beat it all to heck with wind drift, obviously 3/10, but
Right.
You're not retraining to shoot this round. If you literally converted from a Mark 262 to this round, you're putting all the energy on target, and you have the capability with a 90 grain bullet to put a payload in that bullet, which you cannot do in a 70. They're not doing in a 77 or a 62. That's a personnel bullet. So, now you have AP capabilities with a 90 grain bullet that extend the range out enormously over what could be done with a 7 grain dart in a 52 grain bullet.
Right.
So,
well, and we didn't touch on this, but I know that velocity is a pretty big factor in lethality. Everybody looks at the energy number, but the destruction of the 5.56, a big part of that is just very high velocity impacts. What's the velocity comparison between the 77 grain and the 90 grain at the 600 yard mark?
139 feet per second faster with the 90.
Right. So
out of the 6-meter max.
So you're retaining more velocity, so you still have that high speed devastation. That's great.
Correct.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you're looking at like hard numbers on it. 1507 retained velocity at 600 out of the 77 versus 1646 with the 90 out of the. So yeah, 139 feet per second higher impact velocity at 600 yards.
So you should be able to outperform the body armor stats of the 5.56 at all distances.
Oh yeah, and increase it.
Right. And have you guys had a chance to? I don't know if you have any specialty armor projectiles for the 6 Max. Is it any options like that for service members?
We haven't played with the darts yet. We've we defeat all level 3 body armor just with copper.
Right.
You're going to take a dart to defeat level 4 body armor, which we know all you got to do is a weight of the dart and a velocity, and it can be done. At some point we'll say, there it is. But you have enough data. The bullet's just a package to carry the dart, and if the dart's going a certain speed, it's it's going to go through.
So at what distance does it defeat the level 3? Max distance there?
I haven't shot it for max distance. I've only shot it in a lab, and it goes through it like you got to have AR 500 behind it, or don't do it. Right.
Understood. No, I understand. Very good. So the 6 Max is kind of going head to head against the 6 Arc, right? Because Hornady came out with this 6 Arc cartridge with a lot of the same theology that you guys had in how do we upgrade that 5.56 to a cartridge that is going to give back that lethality that we desire. So why don't you kind of get into what the differences are between the 6 Max and the 6 Arc, and help our viewers understand what you guys offer that the 6 Arc can't, and maybe some of the deficiencies that exist there.
You want to take the lead on that, Clark, and I can fill in?
Sure. I mean, the straightforward, simple answer is the 6mm Max doesn't break guns. I do want to, before I go into the kind of the more mechanical side of it, explain, one of the big misunderstandings I think out there in the market is the 6mm Max was never designed to compete with the 6 Arc. They both were conceptualized about the same time. The 6mm Max was developed to be a replacement, to be a candidate as a replacement for the 5.56 in the M4 platform in a general infantry role. We get compared to the 6 Arc all the time because we have very similar performance in most areas. The 6 Arc can go heavier. It was designed for heavy projectiles out of the gate. We're going to parallel it in performance, through the mid range, and then we're going to exceed it in performance in the light range and with shorter barrels. Ballistically speaking, as far as mechanically, you don't have a structurally compromised rifle. You don't have a structurally compromised bolt. You don't have the heavier bolt thrust loads. You're not breaking extractors. So operational operational reliability, and durability were all factors in the design of the 6mm max.
And so, essentially, to put it in layman's terms, the 6 arc is a really kind of a foot that's too big for the shoe that they're forcing it in, and it's causing extractor failures, bolt head failures, and the M4 just is too small for it.
Well, and to that note, they're addressing that by using more exotic materials, engineering proprietary components. So we like to tout that the 6mm max is Doge compliant. Mm-hmm. Change a barrel and a mag, and you're back on the battlefield. Nothing, no proprietary, no specialized training for the soldiers or for the armorers, and no specialized parts to stock outside of the barrel and the magazine.
So you mentioned the magazine. What's the capacity limitations of the 6 Max versus the capacity limitations on the 6 Arc?
Well, both are an evolution, and obviously, with the Arc evolution a little faster, they've gotten the Geisley 30 round, but for a long time they were, I think, 24 rounds, and we're at 20 rounds with a Durmag with a 30 round prototype in progress. And the difference in length between the two mags, when you put 30 rounds of a cartridge that's 441 in diameter versus 30 rounds of a cartridge that's 390 in diameter, you have a substantial length difference in those two mags. Right. And we're at about, I think, 7 1/4. Going from memory, it might be somewhere in that range. It's 7 1/4, slightly longer than that, for 30 rounds in a straight magazine. We're not curved, because a cartridge is basically a straight wall minus what's required to taper to get out of the chamber. But for 30 rounds, it does not require a tapered magazine. Which is nice, because it plays nice in your mag pouches versus a mag that looks like it has Peronis. So
right. Well, I know that this last SHOT Show, Magpul came out with a 6 Arc magazine, but most people, I don't think, realize that the lower receiver is not a standard AR lower. It has a wider mouth magazine well. Correct. And so it's great that they're trying to optimize that feeding reliability with the magazine designed specifically for that cartridge, but it's going to create a challenge in adoption, because now they have to purchase essentially new serialized parts, which generally is not as easy as just changing out an upper or changing out a magazine. And so, we face the same issue with our quad stack magazine lower. We have an optimized lower receiver to offer these very awesome magazines, but because it's a serialized part, it's a different challenge to get that integrated into the system.
For sure.
So are there other, as far as performance capabilities, you touched on this, Clark. You mentioned that below a certain grain bullet, the 6 Max is more capable than the 6 Arc. And then there's a kind of a mid-range where they're about equal, and then above a certain grain bullet, that the 6 Arc is superior to the 6 Max. Do you want to share with our viewers what those ranges are?
So on that comparison, we go up to, so like our range currently is 50 grain up to a 107 at magazine length. Okay. Right. So I think one of the most common projectiles in the Arc is the 108. Mm-hmm. So, we can't run the 108 at mag length and have enough powder capacity to get any performance out of it. So that's where we give it up on the top end of the spectrum. Okay. On the bottom end, for example, like we can push a 55 grain projectile out of a 10.5-inch barrel, and we're knocking on the door of 3,200. Mm-hmm. We can shoot a 50 grain projectile out of a 7.5-inch. Correct me if I'm not correct on this, Brian, but we were pushing 3,000 feet a second with a 50 grain.
We were about 2976 from a 7.5-inch barrel with a solid brass, not copper, brass projectile. 2976 is an average. Some over, some under, but we averaged 2976 solid brass projectile.
Do you know what the 6 Arc might have in that same length, same cartridge?
I think projectile. They go down to a 55.
Okay.
But it's going to be less because they're kneecapped to 52,000 psi.
Right.
That's the most you can push out of that brass in that gun, because if you go higher than that and it bulges the case. We've seen the whole evolution of the chamber and people hot rodding the case and it bulging out. They extract the cartridge and it looks like a 300 Win Mag belt on the bottom.
Right.
It's brass flowing in the chamber, unsupported areas. So they limited the pressure to 52,000, and then they had, because it neutered their performance. And when they went to a bolt gun, they raised it to 62,000 to get their velocities back up.
I understand. So essentially, because the cartridge is as large in diameter as it is on the 6-arc, and the bolt and everything is as tight in the pushing the limits of what can fit, and then the brass is kind of pushing the limits of what can fit. The 6-arc has thinner areas that don't allow it to have as high pressure. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the web of the cartridge initially, it's adopted from a 220 Russian /6.5 Grendel / on down the evolution, and the web of the web, which is the floor of the cartridge case, was outside the chamber area.
Okay.
And that's where the bulging occurs.
Yeah.
It's unsupported.
Yeah.
Whereas the normal cartridge, the web is in the chamber.
Okay. It's supposed to be in the chamber.
It's supposed to be in the chamber.
Anyone that's had a case head separation knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, and to kind of put the technical explanation behind that, in a typical bolt gun, between your bolt nose and your breech face, you're going to have maybe a 10 thou gap, of what we could call unsupported case. In a typical AR-15, M4, M16 rifle, between the lug face, not the bolt face, between the lug face and the breech is going to be somewhere in that range of about 8 to 10 thou. And then typical chamfer in the breech face is going to be about 50 thou deep. So you can have upwards of 60 thou of unsupported case between the lug face and the end of the chamfer. And that's where that bulge occurs. And one of the things in the design and in the engineering of the 6mm Max cartridge is it was designed specifically to function in that environment. So the case has qualities incorporated into it to make it to where it spans that bridge without it having any issue to the cartridge. Whereas, other cartridges, that share the same parent case was never designed to operate in that environment out of the gate. It was designed as a bolt gun cartridge.
Right.
So therein lies the issue with that. And so the corrective measures that I believe, I can't, I don't know sure, that are being taken to fix that issue, I think also might be reducing internal capacity of the case too. So now you're potentially reducing performance a little bit more.
Right. So even though the 6-arc cartridge or casing has more capacity, it takes less pressure because they really didn't beef up the area that's protruding out of the chamber like they needed to. And the 6 Max is...
Well, and we've seen the evolution, and I don't want to name brass companies, but anybody can research it. You look at the new brass that's being put out now, and there's an internal belt inside the cartridge.
Oh, I see. So now right. So your capacity is probably more similar to between the two cases now.
Yeah, and they're semi-certified at 52, so that's never going to change. You could hand load and play and go wherever you want, but as far as factory ammo, what it's designed to do and what it's certified to do is 52. And that's the argument I have with people when they say your cartridge, the bullet, when you go long bullets, they impede into the cartridge and they eat into the powder capacity. That's a true statement, but we make up the difference using faster powders and higher pressures. So it's a wash. It becomes a mood issue. If you compare the performance, I guess Mike Russo did it shooting quantified performance in 23. And he was an art guy. We handed him a 6 Max and he won the championship with a 6 Max. And he did a full review of his ballistics, comparing it straight up with the 6 arc load that he was shooting versus ours. And there isn't a 0.1 of a mil difference between the terminal ballistics of both cartridges. And the advantage I would say with us is feeding reliability. We're not a short fat cartridge. We're a more conventional long rifle cartridge that feeds a heck of a lot easier than doing the feed from the magazine to the chamber.
Want to make your magazine shorter too for the same capacity, because you don't, that smaller diameter doesn't take up as much vertical room.
Yeah, there's not a horizontal component there. The bullet is traveling, it's more centerline. And also one attribute that we wound up with, which was a fluke, and it happens in 6mm. In our design, I didn't design it this way, but it worked out. I'll give credit to Dave Emery, because I had different overall lengths, and he looked at what I was doing in the lab and he goes, well, why don't you just load them all the same overall length? And I'm like, well, you're a pretty smart guy. That's what we're going to start doing. So it doesn't matter if you're shooting a 55 grain or a 50 grain projectile or a 107 grain projectile. The overall length is the same. The magazine doesn't know the difference. The feed ramps don't know the difference. The chamfer in the chamber doesn't know the difference. So the reliability is 100%.
Right.
Versus other cartridges, that overall length changes with bullet projectile, and that changes the dynamics of what's going on in that chamber, the path that the bullet has to take to get to the chamber. So that's another attribute of doing things conventionally.
So as we discuss the 5.56 versus this 6 Max cartridge, and you highlighted that 90 grain, ideal load that you guys think is universally the best for that cartridge. If you shoot a 90 grain bullet in the 6 ARC, a 90 grain bullet in the 6 Max, what kind of variance are you going to see in the performance?
I would say potentially
it would be virtually identical.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, or we would be slightly faster because of slightly higher pressure.
Okay, very good. So the 6 ARC, as far as ballistic performance, doesn't really gain an advantage until you go above 107 grains. Is that correct?
Yeah, they have a 110 grain bullet, but I don't know that many people that are shooting it, and there's not enough powder to push a 110 grain bullet to any useful velocity. I used to shoot a 243 Winchester, hot rodded for F class, and the best we could do was a 105 grain Berger hybrid. You go heavier than that, the gun slows down, the ballistics aren't there to support it. So that was the apex and that cartridge is a neck down 308. I mean, my load was 44.1 grains of H4831 SC.
Okay.
And slow burning 26 or 28 inch barrel, is big long bull barrel.
Okay.
So yeah, you don't have the engine to push those heavy bullets. You're shooting artillery. There's
Understood. So essentially, you feel like the 6 Max kind of optimizes the performance of the cartridge in the grain weight bullets that really still give you that super flat, high velocity trajectory.
Yeah.
And doesn't give anything up to the 6 ARC in that realm. And then once you start getting into the point where you have these very heavy bullets that maybe aren't as flat shooting, then the 6 ARC might edge up a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say it's fair enough. We shoot a 270 grain, the 107 Sierra Match King. We Ayler measured it at 270 G7, and that's pretty darn high on the chart. And,
right.
You take that up to NATO pressures, and it's no slouch.
What velocity were you pushing that 107?
Out of a 28 inch or a 18 inch barrel, it's in the 2700-ish range.
So that's still pretty good.
Yeah. So like a 105 out of what length did you say, Brian? 20 or 24?
Yeah, 18 to 20. I mean, we use 24 inch for test guns, but we typically shoot 18 to 20 inch barrels on the range.
Yeah. So at 105, we're out of an 18 inch, we're 2604. Okay. 105. So the 107, shave, about 15 off of that. And
okay. Testimonials on the 6 Max. I mean, we didn't really talk about this in any of our prior conversations, but I feel like that there's it's making some waves out in the communities. And I know I've talked to Ray Helms, aka X-Ring on YouTube, and he's achieving some pretty phenomenal results. And I asked him, the 6 Max versus the 6 ARC, and he said for him, he wants the 6 Max because he gets higher capacity. he's not breaking his stuff. The reliability is better, and the performance in his arena is the same. That's what he told me. Third party independent inquiry as I was doing my homework on the 6 Max. So I don't know. Do you want to share any additional testimonials or things that you want to highlight?
I don't believe Ray Helms has lost a match since he started shooting 6mm max.
Yeah.
I think he's pulled off first in every match he shot since he started shooting it. So, that
Yeah.
I think that speaks for itself.
Yeah, he had one where Scott Peterson he got a failure to do right, so he took a time penalty, but he didn't get outshot.
Right.
He got first in gas, but not overall, and it was due to his penalty, and it shouldn't have been a giant penalty, but it was, so he got second. So it wasn't bullets on target.
Right. Yeah, I watched his videos. So if you guys want to see real world results and independent validation of the 6 Max, go to X-Ring's YouTube channel, and you can watch his competition results. Availability. If any of our viewers want to know how they can get their hands on the 6 Max and start to experience this new performance cartridge, what rifle companies are currently offering the 6 Max? What ammo companies are offering ammunition?
If you want to do a conversion, a simple conversion, you can buy a mag from us or Duramag. We have all the 350 Legend mags that are converted with a 6 Max and the follower, anti-tilt follower. And then the barrels are on Brownells. They're on the whole distribution chain. There's a whole long list of distributors. You just Google 6 Max barrels and it brings up quite a few that have the barrels and the uppers. And then if you want a whole gun, I guess you can get those Brownells, or you can get a functioning AR from Sons currently. They're building them in their new gun, the Mark 1. You can get a 6 Max in Mark 1. As far as the AR side of the house, the Mostech is also doing conversions now in 6 Max. They're a finish house, and they're doing the Q Minifix. There's been a huge demand for the Q Minifix in 6 Max, and I told people it's proprietary. I can't do it. Nobody can do it. Well, they finally released that proprietary parts in that to Mostech, and they started doing conversion. So that was positive that the demand is out there. Everybody wants to convert it in guns. And as far as barrels, you can buy barrels directly from Saturn. We've used Saturn Liberty barrels, Saturn regular and their Liberty button, both cut in butt, for I don't know 4 years now. They've been making our barrels, and they're licensed now. You can get them directly from them. Obviously, you guys, hopefully in the very near future, are going to start putting out some awesome guns. Redbeard's down in near Corpus, or in Portland, which is just outside of Corpus. They're a custom gun shop to do bolt gun custom builds or conversions. If you want to get your Remington 700 converted, a barrel put on it, they can do it. West Texas Ordnance is another one that does conversions and builds custom. That has our tooling. McGowan Barrels has our tooling, can do a custom barrel for you. It's on their web. You can just go to their web and order 6 Max. You want carbon barrels? Carbon 6 out of Louisiana has barrels in stock for ARs in 20 inch, 18 inch, and 16 inch.
16, 20, and 24.
That's it. 16, 20, 24. I get too many barrels in my head. What I just listed off is what we stock.
Right.
But in McGowan and Carbon 6 both offer, in addition to gas gun barrels, they do pre-fits for bolt gun barrels as well. So if you've got a Howa Mini Actions, a Seekins Havoc, a Defiance Industries Action, or any other, you can also order pre-fits from them for your bolt guns as well. So there's a multitude of options out there to acquire a barrel chambered in 6mm max. And
it's a good segment. It leads into everybody wants to know, is the ammo going to be available? And everybody's sitting on the fence, and it segues into, we don't have the ammo sitting on the shelf yet, but there's the box, and there's the there's what everybody's been waiting on is who's
Right.
the magic mystery player in this. And I don't know if you can see that on the box.
Yeah,
You
we can
guys
see
got
that.
to see it. You got to see it first
Yep. So
on the
nozzle.
website.
Yeah.
You are the first. That is now public.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's exciting.
So
Nozzler,
that's super exciting news.
Nozzler makes
That's-
awesome ammunition, and they're a great partner. So this is a huge development.
Yeah, it's massive. And we're about a week out from having brass in my hand. You know,
Okay.
they've already drawn brass. They're happy with it. We discovered a few little tweaks. They're making the tweaks, and every tweak's 5 days. So we just keep riding along. It'll be here in a couple weeks, and we're going to shoot it and go, yep, that's Nozzler brass. Fire up the presses.
And welcome to product development.
Exactly.
And we do still, there is ammunition available currently on the BCPB website. True Ballistics down in Kennedy has some 85 grain ammo available, and you can still find on AmmoSeek the Sun's packaged ammo as well. So the availability is still there. We're in this transition phase over to the Nozzler brass. So
Right. So they can buy loaded ammunition from you guys, True Ballistics, or find Sons of Liberty's loaded ammo on AmmoSeek. Is that right?
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as soon as the new brass hits, the availability is going to be pushed out, and it's going to go up again. You know, obviously there's a transitionary period.
Right. But they can get stock right now, so it's not like
Yes,
there's a dry
we
spell.
have the 58 grain in stock, the 62 grain frangible in stock, the 85 grain spear in stock, and all the heaviers are coming.
Okay.
The new
Sounds like we need to
brass
make
hits.
us a 90 grain load.
The 90 grain Nozzler AccuBond is going to be the new 90 grain load for the 6 Max.
Okay.
So
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
yeah, high quality bullet.
Yeah. No, they do numbers on animals, so that'll be a good cartridge. Good bullet.
Exactly.
Very good. Well, cool. What about for reloaders that want to just buy brass, or they want to buy and where can they get dies and whatnot?
Dies are available from us. We got Lyman dies, and brass will be available as soon as it gets here and it gets restocked. And everybody's asked me, is the price going to be, a lot higher than what we've been selling? Because now it's Nozzler, premium brass, which is typically. And the answer is no. It's the same, and it's actually coming down in quantity. So.
Wow.
75 cents per 100. If you buy 500, it's 70 cents, and if you buy 1,000, it's 65 cents.
That's awesome.
We plan to move some brass.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be
we're-
available on the website in 100, 500, and 1,000 count quantities.
Yeah, that's awesome.
As well as we have the die sets, we've got case trimmers, we've got case gauges. So we've got all the supportive materials, as for hand loading as well. And there's hand loading data on the BCPB website. So,
Right.
The case capacity between the Starline brass that we are using and the Nozzler brass is going to be synonymous or close enough. It's not going to make a difference in the load charts, and we are going to go reshoot all the loads. And if we have to tweak anything, we'll tweak it.
Okay.
We think the velocities are going to increase because the integrity of the case has increased. The Nozzler brass is clean sheet engineered from the ground up. We have applied everything that we've learned over the last 5 years of shooting in the lab and in guns, probably close to 50,000 rounds in the lab and in test guns. We've applied that to this clean sheet brass.
Wow.
So there's 7-8 different refinements that went into this brass, and the pressure, not that I'm going to load it hotter, Sammy, to go on the shelf, but a hand loader can now load this cartridge a lot hotter than Sammy if they choose to do.
Okay.
Because
Yes, I'm sure they will.
The integrity of the brass is going to be there.
Yes. Yep. You're gonna figure out where the limits are. Guaranteed.
Exactly.
So, well, I've been excited about the 6 Max since last year when I did my NGSW concept gun the way it should have been. I think that this is a much better replacement than that 6.8 Fury. Recoil dynamics is very similar to the 5.56. You know, the 6.8 Fury is more than double the recoil. The rifle is double the weight. You know, the ammunition is 40% less, and I think that this is a much more viable option. And I would love to see consumers get on this and get things moving. And we signed a license agreement with you guys to produce the 6 Max with our rifles, and this is kind of the first official announcement for that too, and we're pretty excited to offer that. So it's going to be coming available in 2026 timeline. Where right now we're backlogged on our existing product, and adding new stuff to the mix just kind of complicates things and makes customers angry. So we got to ship what they're ordering now before we put more stuff on the fire. So, but this is I've been very intrigued with the 6 Max, and I think that you guys hit it out of the park. And anyways, I definitely I appreciate you guys coming on today. Is there anything else you want to share with our viewers before we?
2 points that I'd like to add is shootability. That's one of the things that comes up in conversation quite a bit. And across the board, anytime we've demoed the cartridge, we always get the same comment. I thought it would kick harder, and you tell them, like, what do you think? Oh, there's no recoil at all. Okay, well, you're shooting 105 grain projectile, and they're like, no way. So it's an incredibly efficient case design, and we realized part of the value of that in improved shootability, softer recoiling, ability to stay in the glass, stay on target, follow up shots, etc. So we have that. And then one other point I'd just like to add, just because it comes up in a lot of different forums and stuff, is it's the 223 is not the parent cartridge to this, and so there's no interchangeability there. A 223 cartridge will not go into battery in a 6mm max cartridge because the shoulder is further forward on the 223, so it won't go into battery. A 6mm max cartridge will not go into a 223 5.56 chamber because it's larger diameter. So there's no risk of, like the 300 blackout 223 scenario.
Yes, I understand.
That is a non-issue because they will not go into battery, into each other's respective chamber too. So.
Yeah. On that note, one time I mistakenly fired a 300 Win Mag through a 338 Lapua barrel. Luckily, everything was fine. I blew the extractor off and the case head blew up, but I was safe and the gun worked, and I just put a new extractor on, and it still shoots great today.
Learning moments.
Yeah. Oh, bolt face diameter. Will you share with our viewers the bolt face diameter and the commonality with other cartridges that use that same bolt face diameter?
Yeah, that's a good point. The only one that I know that in rifle is 22 Nosler. I believe it's 378 bolt head. But basically, that was the niche of this. There wasn't a cartridge available that ran on a 378 bolt head. When we looked at all the other attempts at converting an AR-15, you had to modify the bolt face to get the cartridge in there. The 6.8 is larger. All the Grendel variants are 441, I think, going out of memory.
447, I believe.
So and part of what spawned on that question is, as we talked about availability, we talked about getting barrels, getting uppers, but we didn't really talk about getting bolt heads. So, because it's important for our viewers to know that you can't just use your standard 5.56 bolt head with this cartridge.
No, it is.
You can. It's standard.
So it is.
Spec. Yes. It's
okay.
Spec.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's
100%.
Okay.
Well, 100% mil.
We'll scrap that. So
you just take your 223 5.56 or 223 Wildy chambered AR-15, pull the barrel off, put the 6 Max barrel in it, and go shoot.
Okay. For whatever reason, I thought that the bolt face was a different diameter. So
no.
Yes,
that's good. The magic. That's the magic of this cartridge.
Okay,
it's all mil spec.
It's a good thing we clarified that for me too.
Yeah.
Standard mil spec bolt.
Very good. Is there anything else you guys want to cover before we depart?
I don't know. Here's some eye candy. Yes.
Yeah.
That's for the viewer. That's 5.56 link belts, and that's a 6 cool. Max. So when you want to talk about direct conversion to other weapons, that's a plug and play. So that's we've been playing with that. So that's another
add too that going back to the list of availability. Also for our friends up in northern states that have restrictions hunting wise. There are also rifles available from Unitah that makes a bolt action upper that goes on an AR-15 lower.
Okay.
So to comply with the hunting regulations up there.
Okay.
I'm not sure which states or what counties, but so there's an option for those fellows too. So we've got a pretty broad coverage at this point in availability and platform types.
And it continues to grow, and I fully expect now that we've made the public announcement that we've got Nosler support that our phone ain't going to quit ringing.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that brass really shows up next week. make it easy on you guys.
Yeah, for us it'll be here next week, and for the consumers it'll be October. I just tell everybody that now so they'll quit calling me.
Right.
October.
So
the truck will arrive.
So we talked about the 6 Max here today. Is there any other development plans in the future for other exciting offers at BPC Precision Ballistics?
It's possible. I haven't given it great thought. I thought about everybody. The natural evolution is, well, you're going to do subsonic.
Yeah.
Well, my answer to that is the 8.6 Blackout. Kevin Brettingham's cartridge. They all go the same speed, and the heaviest bullet wins. So we will never shoot a bullet as big as an 8.6 or as heavy as an 8.6. So Kevin, you won that one. I'm probably not going to do subsonic.
Right.
Unless the Army wants to pay us to do it, we'll do it. But ballistically, from a design standpoint, that cartridge, wins.
Yeah,
so
understood.
It's an amazing cartridge. So yeah, but other than that, I don't know. We'll have to put our creative minds to thought when we have enough time to pull our heads up and breathe, from the launch.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. Get the 6 Max going. Don't spread your resources too thin. And then when you got the success there, then you get some leeway to continue to tinker and make the next best thing.
That's it.
So, I appreciate you guys coming on today. It's been a very insightful discussion, and I hope our viewers were excited to learn about the 6 Max and the availability. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and like this video, and stay tuned for future podcasts. Thanks for watching.